Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UHS Frontier, watching the stars through the main viewport. His ship was one of the newest exploration vessels in the human fleet, equipped with the best technology humanity could offer. The Frontier had been patrolling the Outer Rim territories for 3 months now, mapping new systems and looking for signs of life. Jake was a tall man with graying hair and steady blue eyes. He had been in space for 20 years and he had seen many strange things in his time. But today felt different. Today they were heading to the Kepler 442 system, where their long-range sensors had detected something unusual. "Captain, we're approaching the system now," said Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from her position at the navigation console. Amy was the ship's diplomatic officer, a smart woman in her 30s who spoke 7 alien languages fluently. She had short black hair and always wore her uniform perfectly pressed. "Thank you, Amy. Take us in slowly. I want full sensor sweeps of everything," Jake ordered. He had learned to be careful over the years. First contact with new species was always dangerous, no matter how peaceful they seemed at first. The Frontier moved through space quietly, its engines humming softly. The crew of 200 humans and allied aliens worked together smoothly. Jake was proud of his ship and his people. They had built good relationships with many species over the years. "Captain, I'm reading multiple ships in the system," called out Engineer Carl Bennett from his station. Carl was a young man with red hair and freckles, barely 25 years old. He was one of the best engineers in the fleet, even though he looked like he should still be in school. "How many ships, Carl?" Jake asked, moving closer to look at the sensor readings. "At least 30, sir. They're big ones, too. Much larger than anything we've seen before," Carl replied, his voice showing concern. Jake frowned. 30 ships was a lot for an unexplored system. Most species they met had only a few ships when they first encountered them. This suggested a very advanced civilization. "Amy, prepare the standard first contact protocols. Send out our greeting message on all frequencies," Jake ordered. Amy nodded and began working at her console. The standard message was simple and friendly. It explained that they were peaceful explorers from Earth and wanted to establish friendly relations. The message was transmitted in the most common galactic languages. Within minutes, they received a response. But it was not what they expected. "Unknown vessels you will submit to immediate inspection. Lower your shields and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in destruction," came a voice through the communication system. The voice was strange, like music mixed with the sound of breaking glass. Jake looked at Amy with surprise. This was not how first contact usually went. Most species were curious about humans and wanted to talk before making any demands. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human exploration ship Frontier. We are peaceful explorers operating under Galactic Council protocols. We request formal diplomatic contact with your leadership," Jake replied calmly. The response came quickly and was even more hostile than before. "Humans, we know of your species. You are weak carbon-based life forms with no value. You will surrender your ship immediately, or we will take it by force. Your choice is irrelevant." The bridge fell silent. Jake had never heard such open hostility from a new species. Even the most aggressive aliens they had met before were at least willing to talk first. "Captain, 3 more ships are approaching our position. They're moving fast," Carl reported, his voice tense. Jake made a quick decision. "Red alert. Raise shields and charge weapons. Amy, keep trying to establish communication. Maybe we can still work this out." The Frontier's crew moved quickly to battle stations. Red lights flashed throughout the ship as the defensive systems came online. Jake hoped they would not need to fight, but he was not going to let his ship be captured without a struggle. The alien ships were unlike anything the humans had seen before. They were made of what looked like crystal, with sharp edges and strange geometric patterns. They moved through space in perfect formation like a school of deadly fish. "They're powering weapons, Captain," Carl called out. "Evasive maneuvers." "Return fire only if fired upon," Jake ordered. He still hoped to avoid a fight. The alien ships opened fire without warning. Beams of energy struck the Frontier's shields, causing the ship to shake violently. The attack was sudden and vicious with no attempt at further communication. "Return fire. Target their weapon systems only," Jake commanded. The Frontier fought back, its weapons striking the crystal ships with precision, but the aliens seemed unaffected by the damage. Their ships were incredibly strong, and they had many more vessels than the humans. The battle was brief but intense. The Frontier managed to damage several alien ships, but it was clear they were outnumbered. Jake made the decision to retreat before his ship was destroyed. "Jump to hyperspace. Get us out of here," he ordered. As the Frontier prepared to jump, something terrible happened. 3 of his crew members were not on the ship. Engineer Carl Bennett, Medical Officer Lisa Parker, and Communications Specialist Ryan Clark had been on a shuttle mission to study a nearby asteroid when the attack began. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the aliens," Amy said, her face pale. "Put it on screen," Jake replied, though he dreaded what he might see. The main screen showed the 3 missing crew members in what looked like crystal cages. They appeared to be unconscious but alive. Standing near them was a tall crystalline being that sparkled in the light like a living gemstone. "I am High Resonance Cathera, commander of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet. Your crew members are now our property. They will be studied to understand the weaknesses of your inferior species. You may observe their fate as a lesson to all humans." Jake felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice steady. "Release my crew members immediately. They are protected under Galactic Council law." The alien being made a sound like breaking glass, which Jake realized was probably laughter. "Your laws mean nothing to us, carbon waste. We are the Zephyrians, the rightful rulers of this galaxy. We have been watching your pathetic expansion for decades, waiting for the right moment to claim what is ours. Your colonies will fall, and your species will serve us or die." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in shocked silence. Jake stared at the empty screen, his mind racing. This was not just a misunderstanding or a cultural difference. This was a species that saw humans as nothing more than animals to be captured and studied. "Set course for Earth," Jake said quietly. "Maximum speed. We need to warn everyone about what's coming." The Frontier jumped to hyperspace, leaving the Kepler 442 system behind. But Jake knew this was only the beginning. The Zephyrians had made their intentions clear, and they had human prisoners. This was going to mean war. The emergency session in the White House Situation Room was unlike any meeting in human history. President Helen Carter sat at the head of the table, her face grim as she listened to Captain Jake Morrison's report. Around the table sat the most powerful people in human space, including Admiral Scott Hayes, head of the Human Defense Force. "Let me understand this correctly, Captain," President Carter said, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "This species, the Zephyrians, attacked your ship without provocation and captured 3 of your crew members for what they called biological study." Jake nodded, his jaw tight with suppressed anger. "Yes, Madam President. They made it clear they consider humans to be inferior life forms suitable only for experimentation. They also claimed they've been watching our expansion for decades." Admiral Hayes leaned forward, his weathered face showing concern. Scott was a veteran of many conflicts, a man who had spent 40 years protecting human colonies from various threats. But this was different from anything they had faced before. "The intelligence reports are troubling," Scott said, spreading holographic displays across the table. "Our deep space monitoring stations have detected Zephyrian fleet movements near 17 human colonies. They're not just preparing for one attack. They're planning something much larger." Dr. Margaret Foster, the president's science advisor, studied the data with growing alarm. Margaret was a brilliant woman who had devoted her life to understanding alien species and their technologies. What she saw in these reports frightened her more than anything she had encountered in her career. "Their technology is far more advanced than anything we've seen," Margaret explained. "Their ships appear to be grown rather than built, using some form of crystalline technology that makes them incredibly durable. Our standard weapons barely scratch them." President Carter turned to Ambassador Robert Stone, humanity's representative to the Galactic Council. Robert was a diplomatic man who had spent 20 years building relationships with alien species. He believed strongly in peaceful solutions to conflicts. "What is the Council's position on this situation?" she asked. Robert looked uncomfortable as he delivered his report. "The other species are urging caution, Madam President. The Altarians, Korvaxi, and Zenthari all believe we should try diplomatic solutions first. They're concerned about starting a war with a species that appears to be more technologically advanced than any of us." "Diplomatic solutions," Admiral Hayes repeated, his voice heavy with disgust. "They captured our people for experiments and threatened to destroy our colonies. What exactly are we supposed to negotiate?" The conversation was interrupted when General Patricia Collins entered the room. Patricia was head of a classified program that most people in the room did not even know existed. She was a stern woman with silver hair and cold gray eyes that had seen too many classified briefings. "Madam President, "We need to discuss Project Safeguard," Patricia said quietly. The president nodded and activated the room's highest security protocols. Even Admiral Hayes looked surprised. Project Safeguard was so classified that only a handful of people in the entire government knew about it. For the past 70 years, since we first made contact with alien species, we have been preparing for exactly this situation, Patricia began. While maintaining peaceful relations with the galaxy, we have been quietly building capabilities that we hoped we would never need to use. She activated a holographic display that showed ship designs unlike anything the others had seen. These were not the sleek exploration vessels that humanity was known for. These were weapons of war designed for one purpose only. "We have been watching and learning from every species we've encountered," Patricia continued. "We know their weaknesses, their tactics, their technologies. We have been preparing countermeasures for decades." Chief Engineer Marcus Webb, head of the Secret Military Development Programs, joined the briefing via secure connection. Marcus was a genius who had spent his entire career designing weapons that humanity hoped never to use. "The Zephyrians are not the first species to underestimate humans," Marcus explained. "Their crystalline biology, while making them very durable, also makes them vulnerable to specific frequencies of sonic attack. We can literally shatter their ships and their bodies using sound waves tuned to their molecular structure." Dr. Nathan Cruz, head of human intelligence, added his own disturbing information. "We've been monitoring Zephyrian communications for 3 days now. They're not planning a conquest, Madam President. They're planning an extermination. They see humanity as a disease that needs to be removed from the galaxy." The room fell silent as the full implications of this information sank in. This was not a territorial dispute or a misunderstanding. This was a species that wanted to completely destroy humanity. President Carter stood up slowly, her face showing the weight of the decision she was about to make. Helen had been a peaceful leader, someone who believed in diplomacy and cooperation. But she also understood that sometimes peace could only be preserved through strength. "How long do we have?" she asked. "Based on their fleet movements, we estimate they'll begin their full assault in 2 weeks. Admiral Hayes replied. "They're positioning forces around our major colonies first." The president walked to the window and looked out at the peaceful Earth sky. Somewhere out there, 3 human crew members were being tortured by aliens who saw them as nothing more than laboratory animals. Somewhere out there, an entire species was preparing to commit genocide against humanity. "General Collins, how quickly can Project Safeguard be fully activated?" she asked. 72 hours, Madam President. Our ships are already built and hidden throughout human space. Our personnel are trained and ready. We just need your authorization to begin operations." President Carter turned back to face the room. Her advisors watched her carefully, knowing that her next words would change the course of human history. "The Zephyrians want to know what humans are capable of when we stop being peaceful," she said quietly. "Very well. They'll get their answer." She activated the secure communication system that would reach every human colony and military installation in the galaxy. Her message would be broadcast on all frequencies, ensuring that both humans and aliens would hear it. "This is President Helen Carter speaking to all human forces. As of this moment, we are implementing Protocol Zero. The Zephyrian Empire has declared war on humanity through their actions. They have captured our people for experimentation and threatened the complete destruction of our species." She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. "We gave them a chance for peaceful coexistence. They chose to see our peaceful nature as weakness. They will learn that this was a fatal mistake. All military units are hereby authorized to use any and all means necessary to protect human lives and eliminate the Zephyrian threat." The transmission ended, and the room remained silent for several moments. Admiral Hayes was the first to speak. "Madam President, the Galactic Council will demand explanations for our actions." Helen Carter's expression was cold as ice. "Then they can ask the Zephyrians for explanations." "Oh wait, they won't be able to do that." Across human space, hidden weapons systems began to activate. Ships that had been disguised as cargo vessels revealed their true nature. Mining stations transformed into military bases, and in the deepest classified facilities, scientists began preparing weapons that would make the galaxy understand why humanity had chosen peace for so long. The Zephyrians had wanted to see what humans were truly capable of. They were about to find out. The Galactic Council chambers had never seen such tension. Representatives from dozens of species filled the Great Hall, their various forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. At the center of attention stood Ambassador Robert Stone, representing humanity in what many believed would be their final diplomatic meeting. Ambassador Thyrix of the Altarians, a tall blue-skinned being with large silver eyes, spoke first. The Altarians were known throughout the galaxy as wise peacekeepers, and their words carried great weight in the council. Ambassador Stone, the reports we are receiving from human space are deeply concerning. Your military forces are mobilizing on a scale never before seen. This appears to be preparation for total war, not defensive action. Robert stood calmly, his hands clasped behind his back. He had served in this chamber for 20 years, always advocating for peaceful solutions. Today would be different. Ambassador Thyrix, humanity has always sought peaceful coexistence with all species. The Zephyrians have made this impossible through their actions. They have captured our people for torture and experimentation, and they have announced their intention to completely destroy our species. Commander Vorthak of the Korvaxi stepped forward. The Korvaxi were a warrior species, but even they believed in honor and rules of engagement. His forearms gestured as he spoke, his reptilian features showing concern. We understand your anger, Ambassador Stone, but war should be the last option. The Zephyrians are technologically superior to any known species. A direct conflict could result in the destruction of humanity. Logic Prime 07 of the Zenthari activated its translation matrix. The Zenthari were an artificial intelligence species that valued logical solutions above all else. Their mechanical voice echoed through the chamber. Analysis indicates that diplomatic pressure combined with economic sanctions would be more effective than military action. The probability of human victory in direct combat is estimated at 12.7%. Robert listened to each speaker, his face showing no emotion. These species had been humanity's friends and allies for 2 centuries. They meant well, but they did not understand what they were dealing with. Honored representatives, Robert began, his voice carrying throughout the chamber. I want to share with you some information that may change your perspective on this situation. He activated the chamber's main display system. Images appeared showing the 3 captured human crew members in Zephyrian holding facilities. The footage was horrific. Carl Bennett, Lisa Parker, and Ryan Clark were strapped to crystalline tables while Zephyrian scientists conducted various experiments on their conscious, screaming forms. This footage was transmitted to us by the Zephyrians themselves, Robert explained, his voice remaining steady despite the terrible images. They are not interested in conquest or resources. They are interested in the complete extermination of humanity, preceded by systematic torture and experimentation. The chamber erupted in shocked conversations as various species reacted to the footage. Even the most hardened warriors among them were disturbed by what they saw. Robert continued speaking over the noise. The Zephyrians have also sent us a formal demand. They require the complete surrender of all human colonies within 30 days. Any humans who surrender will be kept alive for experimentation purposes. Those who resist will be killed immediately. Ambassador Thyrix's silver eyes showed deep sadness. This is indeed terrible, Ambassador Stone. But surely there must be some way to negotiate. Perhaps we could offer the Zephyrians something they want more than conflict. What they want, Robert replied, is to prove their superiority by destroying what they see as an inferior species. They have been planning this for decades. There is nothing to negotiate. At that moment, the chamber's communication system activated. President Helen Carter's image appeared on the main screen, broadcasting from Earth. Her presence in the Galactic Council was unprecedented and showed the severity of the situation. Honored representatives of the Galactic Council, President Carter began. I am addressing you today to inform you of humanity's response to Zephyrian aggression. We have spent 2 centuries as peaceful members of this galactic community. We have followed your laws, respected your territories, and sought cooperation with all species. She paused, and her expression became hard as steel. The Zephyrians have interpreted our peaceful nature as weakness. They have tortured our people and threatened our complete extinction. Today they will learn that humanity's peaceful behavior was a choice, not a limitation. The president's image was replaced by footage from human military facilities across the galaxy. The assembled alien representatives watched in stunned silence as humanity revealed capabilities that none of them had suspected. Massive warships emerged from hidden bases, their designs unlike anything the galaxy had seen. These were not exploration vessels or defensive platforms. These were weapons designed for one purpose: the complete destruction of enemy forces. Admiral Scott Hayes appeared on screen from the bridge of the UHS Retribution, a massive battleship that dwarfed even the largest Zephyrian vessels. The ship's hull was covered in weapon systems that seemed to bend the laws of physics. For 70 years, humanity has been preparing for this day, Admiral Hayes announced. We have studied every species in the galaxy, learning your strengths and weaknesses. We have developed countermeasures for every known form of alien technology. The Zephyrians wanted to see what humans are truly capable of. They will have their answer. Dr. Susan Miller, head of Human Weapons Development, provided technical details that made even the advanced alien species step back in alarm. Our ships are equipped with weapons that target specific biological signatures. We can literally rewrite the molecular structure of enemy vessels while they are still occupied. We can create gravitational fields that will crush crystalline structures like the Zephyrians use. The display showed test footage of human weapons in action. Asteroids the size of small moons simply ceased to exist when hit by human energy beams. Massive structures were reduced to dust in seconds. The destructive potential was beyond anything the galaxy had imagined possible. Logic. Prime 07 of the Zenthari began rapid calculations. Analysis error. Previous estimates of human technological capabilities were inaccurate by a factor of 847. How is this possible? General Patricia Collins answered from her classified facility on Earth. We learned from watching all of you. Every species we encountered taught us something new about warfare, technology, or strategy. We combined all of this knowledge and spent decades perfecting it in secret. Commander Vorthak of the Korvaxi, despite being a warrior, showed genuine fear. Ambassador Stone. This level of military capability suggests that humanity could threaten any species in the galaxy. Why have you hidden this from us? Robert's answer was simple and chilling. Because we hoped we would never need to use it. We believed that peaceful coexistence was possible with all species. The Zephyrians have proven us wrong. President Carter's image returned to the screen for her final statement. The Zephyrian Empire has declared war on humanity through their actions. As of this moment, we consider them to be an existential threat to our species. We will respond accordingly. The transmission ended, leaving the Galactic Council chamber in complete silence. The alien representatives sat in stunned shock, realizing that they had never truly known their human allies. Ambassador Thyrix was the first to speak, his voice quiet and shaken. Ambassador Stone, what are your intentions regarding the Zephyrians? Robert Stone straightened his uniform and looked directly at each representative in turn. When he spoke, his words would be remembered throughout galactic history. The Zephyrian Empire attacked us because they believed humans were weak. They captured our people for torture because they thought we would not retaliate. They threatened to exterminate our entire species because they assumed we would surrender. He paused, and his expression became as cold as the vacuum of space. We are going to prove them wrong on every count. When this is over, the galaxy will remember the Zephyrians as the species that taught humanity what we are truly capable of when pushed too far. The council session ended with those words. Across the galaxy, various species began emergency preparations, not knowing whether humanity would stop with the Zephyrians or continue eliminating other perceived threats. They were about to witness the birth of a legend that would echo through galactic history. Never anger the humans. The Zephyrian High Command was confident as their massive fleet approached the Sol system. High Resonance Kythera stood in the command center of their flagship, a crystalline vessel 3 kilometers long that sparkled with deadly beauty. Around him, his subordinates monitored the approaching battle with anticipation. The human homeworld lies before us, announced Sub-Resonance Malthan, his crystalline form pulsing with excitement. Their pathetic defense fleet appears to be waiting for us. How amusing that they think they can resist. Kythera examined the tactical displays with satisfaction. The human fleet was small, perhaps 50 ships arranged in defensive positions around Earth. Compared to the 300 Zephyrian vessels approaching, it seemed like a hopeless gesture. Signal the human fleet, Kythera commanded. Tell them they have one final chance to surrender. We will allow them to watch as we demonstrate our superiority to their entire species. The communication was transmitted to the lead human vessel, identified as the UHS Defender. The response came from Captain Alex Turner, a middle-aged man with gray hair and steady brown eyes. Alex had been chosen to command Earth's defense not because he was the most aggressive officer, but because he was the most precise. "This is Captain Alex Turner of the Human Defense Fleet," came the reply. "You have attacked our people and threatened our extinction. We will not surrender. We will not negotiate. Withdraw from this system immediately or face the consequences." The Zephyrian command center erupted in what passed for laughter among their species, a sound like crystal chimes being shattered. They had expected fear or desperate pleas for mercy. Instead, they received defiance from what they considered an inferior species. "Begin the attack," Kythera ordered. "Destroy their defensive fleet, but leave their planet intact. I want their population to witness our power before we begin the experiments." The Zephyrian fleet moved forward in perfect formation, their crystalline ships gleaming in the light of Sol, their weapon systems charged with energy that could shatter mountains and boil oceans. They had used these same tactics to conquer dozens of worlds across the galaxy. But as they closed the distance to the human fleet, something unexpected happened. The human ships began to change. Captain Turner activated systems that had been hidden for 70 years. The hulls of the human vessels shifted and expanded, revealing weapon systems that defied conventional understanding. Ships that had appeared to be simple cruisers suddenly became massive battleships bristling with unknown technology. "What is happening?" Sub-Resonance Malthan asked, his voice showing the first hint of uncertainty. Before Kythera could respond, the human fleet opened fire. But these were not the primitive energy weapons the Zephyrians expected. These were weapons specifically designed to target crystalline molecular structures. Sonic cannons unleashed focused sound waves tuned to the exact frequency that would shatter Zephyrian hull materials. Quantum disruptors targeted the crystalline matrices that held their ships together. Gravitational weapons created localized fields that crushed crystalline structures like eggshells. The first volley from the human fleet destroyed 30 Zephyrian ships in less than 5 seconds. The proud crystalline vessels simply came apart, their molecular bonds disrupted by weapons designed specifically to counter their biology. "Impossible," Kythera screamed, his harmonic voice rising to painful levels. "How do they know our weaknesses?" The answer came from Commander Victoria Steele, broadcasting from her heavy cruiser UHS Vengeance. Victoria was a tall woman with short blonde hair and ice-blue eyes that showed no mercy for enemies who threatened her species. "We've been studying you for 3 months. Victoria's voice came through their communication systems. "Every ship design, every tactical pattern, every biological weakness. Did you really think we would enter a war without understanding our enemy?" The Zephyrian fleet tried to adapt, changing their formation and activating defensive measures they had never needed before. But the humans had prepared for every possibility. Ships that had been disguised as cargo vessels throughout the system suddenly revealed themselves as weapons platforms. Admiral Kevin Brooks coordinated the attack from his flagship UHS Nemesis, a vessel so heavily armed that it looked more like a flying weapons factory than a ship. Kevin was a strategic genius who had spent his entire career studying alien warfare tactics. "All units, implement Protocol 0 Phase 1, Admiral Brooks commanded. "Target priority is complete elimination of enemy forces. No survivors, no prisoners, no mercy." The human fleet moved with mechanical precision, each ship playing its part in a dance of destruction that had been rehearsed thousands of times. They used tactics that the Zephyrians had never encountered, weapons that seemed to violate the laws of physics, and strategies that turned the aliens' own strengths against them. Within 17 minutes, the entire Zephyrian attack fleet was destroyed. 300 of their most advanced warships had been reduced to drifting debris around Earth. Not a single human vessel had been seriously damaged. High resonance. Kythera found himself alone on the bridge of his flagship, his entire command staff dead from sonic weapons that had shattered their crystalline bodies. His ship was dying around him, its hull cracked in leaking atmosphere. "This is impossible," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "We are the superior species. We are the rightful rulers of the galaxy." Captain Turner's image appeared on his failing communication system. The human's expression showed no emotion, no anger, no satisfaction. Just cold professional efficiency. "You made a mistake," Turner said simply. "You thought our peaceful nature meant we were weak. You thought our cooperation meant we were defenseless. You were wrong." Kythera's ship exploded moments later, taking the Zephyrian commander with it. But the battle for Earth was just the beginning. Across the galaxy, human forces that had been hidden for decades suddenly revealed themselves. Every Zephyrian outpost, every colony, every military installation found itself under attack by humans who knew exactly where to find them. Commander Danny Foster led the assault on the Zephyrian home system from his stealth ship, UHS Shadow. Danny was a specialist in infiltration and reconnaissance, a quiet man who had spent years mapping Zephyrian territory without their knowledge. All units, this is command. Begin simultaneous assault on all confirmed Zephyrian positions, Danny transmitted to the scattered human fleets. Remember, the objective is complete elimination. No Zephyrian ship, station, or settlement is to be left functional. The human attacks were coordinated across dozens of star systems simultaneously. Advanced artificial intelligence calculated the timing so that every Zephyrian position would be hit within minutes of each other, preventing any chance of warning or escape. Captain Lisa Wang commanded the assault on Zephyrian manufacturing facilities in the Rigel sector. Her ship, UHS Precision, was equipped with weapons that could target specific molecular structures, allowing her to destroy enemy installations while leaving valuable resources intact for human use. Target confirmed, Lisa reported as her weapons locked onto a massive Zephyrian shipyard, beginning sterilization protocol. The shipyard, which had produced hundreds of Zephyrian warships over the centuries, simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next it was a cloud of atoms scattered across space. Similar scenes played out across Zephyrian space. Their military academies were destroyed while classes were in session. Their research facilities were eliminated along with all their scientific advances. Their colonial settlements were wiped out so completely that no trace remained of their existence. The Zephyrians tried to fight back, but they were completely unprepared for this level of coordinated assault. Their proud military had never faced an enemy that understood their weaknesses so thoroughly. Their advanced technology was useless against weapons specifically designed to counter it. More importantly, they had never faced an enemy that fought with such systematic thoroughness. The humans were not content to simply defeat the Zephyrian military. They were eliminating every trace of Zephyrian civilization from the galaxy. Within 6 hours of the initial attack on Earth, 90% of all Zephyrian positions had been destroyed. The remaining 10% fell within the next 12 hours. The speed and efficiency of the human assault stunned every species in the galaxy. The Galactic Council received reports that seemed impossible to believe. An entire interstellar civilization had been completely eliminated in less than a day. No refugees, no survivors, no trace that the Zephyrians had ever existed. Ambassador Robert Stone addressed the Council one final time. His words would be remembered throughout galactic history as the moment when the galaxy's perception of humanity changed forever. The Zephyrian Empire chose to threaten the existence of humanity, he said calmly. They have learned that this was a fatal mistake. We hope that other species will learn from their example. Across the galaxy, every alien civilization received the same message. Humanity had revealed its true capabilities. The peaceful species that had been everyone's friend and trading partner was also the most dangerous military force the galaxy had ever seen. The hunt was over. The lesson had been taught, and the galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. 6 months had passed since the last Zephyrian ship was destroyed. Captain Danny Foster stood in the command center of his reconnaissance vessel UHS Shadow, reviewing the final reports from the galactic survey teams. His mission was simple but thorough: confirm that no trace of Zephyrian civilization remained anywhere in known space. Final sector cleared, Captain, reported Lieutenant Sarah Miller, his communications officer. Sarah was a young woman with bright red hair who had been part of the intelligence teams that mapped Zephyrian space before the war. No energy signatures, no hidden bases, no escape pods. The Zephyrian Empire is completely extinct. Danny nodded as he studied the holographic map of the galaxy. Red markers had once indicated hundreds of Zephyrian positions across dozens of star systems. Now those markers were gone, replaced by green indicators showing empty space or human salvage operations. Confirmed extinction of an entire spacefaring species, Danny said quietly. That's something that's never happened before in galactic history. The magnitude of what humanity had accomplished was staggering. In less than 6 months, they had completely erased a civilization that had existed for thousands of years. not just defeated them or conquered them, but eliminated them so thoroughly that archaeologists would struggle to prove they had ever existed. On Earth, President Helen Carter stood before the assembled Galactic Council representatives who had come to witness humanity's official statement about the Zephyrian situation. The great assembly hall was filled with alien diplomats, all watching the human leader with a mixture of awe and fear. "Honored representatives," President Carter began, her voice calm and steady. "6 months ago, the Zephyrian Empire attacked humanity without provocation. They captured our people for torture and experimentation. They threatened the complete extermination of our species." She paused, allowing her words to sink in. Around the room, various alien species listened with intense attention. The war had changed everything in galactic politics, and everyone wanted to understand what it meant for their own civilizations. "We tried to be your friends," the president continued. "For 2 centuries, we followed your laws, respected your territories, and sought peaceful coexistence with all species. We believed that cooperation was better than conflict, that understanding was better than violence." Ambassador Theorix of the Altarians shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The wise, peaceful species had spent months trying to understand how their human allies had hidden such devastating military capabilities for so long. "The Zephyrians taught us that some species view kindness as weakness," President Carter explained. "They believed that our peaceful nature meant we were defenseless. They were wrong, and they paid the ultimate price for that mistake." She activated the room's main display system, showing footage from the human military operations. But these were not scenes of battle or destruction. Instead, they showed what the humans had found in Zephyrian research facilities. The images were horrific. Thousands of alien specimens from dozens of species, all captured and subjected to grotesque experiments. The Zephyrians had not been content to simply conquer other civilizations. They had been systematically studying them, learning their weaknesses for future extermination campaigns. "This is what we discovered in every Zephyrian research facility," President Carter announced. They had been planning the systematic extermination of every non-Zephyrian species in the galaxy. "We were not their first target. We were simply next on their list." Dr. Rachel Kim, humanities chief scientist, provided additional details that shocked the assembled representatives. Rachel was a brilliant researcher who had spent months analyzing Zephyrian data after the war. "The Zephyrians had detailed plans for eliminating 47 different species," Dr. Kim explained. "They had biological weapons specifically designed to target Altarian physiology, sonic weapons to shatter Corvaxi exoskeletons, and computer viruses to destroy Xanthari consciousness matrices." The room erupted in shocked conversations as species realized how close they had come to their own extinction. The Zephyrians had not been planning conquest. They had been planning genocide on a galactic scale. Logic Prime 07 of the Xanthari processed this information with mechanical precision. Analysis indicates that Zephyrian extermination protocols would have succeeded against 78.3% of known galactic species. Human intervention prevented galactic genocide. General Ashley Clark, who had coordinated much of the human military response, addressed questions about humanity's hidden capabilities. Ashley was a stern woman who had spent her career preparing for threats that most people hoped would never materialize. "We have always possessed these capabilities," General Clark explained. "Every species we encountered taught us something new about warfare, technology, or strategy. We studied your strengths and weaknesses not to harm you, but to protect ourselves and our allies." She paused, her expression becoming grave. "The Zephyrians forced us to demonstrate what we had learned. We hope that no other species will make the same mistake." The questions from the alien representatives continued for hours. They wanted to understand how humanity had hidden such advanced technology, how they had developed weapons capable of completely eliminating an entire civilization, and most importantly, what this meant for future galactic relations. Commander Vorthak of the Corvaxi asked the question that was on everyone's mind. "Ambassador Stone, now that humanity has revealed these capabilities, what are your intentions regarding other species?" Robert Stone stood to answer, his expression serious but not threatening. Robert had spent his entire diplomatic career building trust between species, and he understood the fear that now filled the room. "Our intentions remain the same as they have always been," Robert replied. "We seek peaceful coexistence, mutual cooperation, and friendship with all species. The Zephyrians are gone because they threatened the existence of humanity and planned the genocide of other species. We hope that no other civilization will follow their example. President Carter returned to address the final questions. Her words would shape galactic politics for generations to come. We erased the Zephyrians completely, she said, her voice carrying throughout the chamber. Not because we enjoyed it, but because they left us no choice. They threatened not just humanity, but the existence of peaceful civilization in this galaxy. She looked directly at each alien representative as she continued. We have shown you what humans are capable of when forced to defend ourselves. We hope this demonstration was educational. We also hope it was unnecessary. The meeting ended with those words, but the effects would last for centuries. Across the galaxy, species that had once viewed humans as junior partners in galactic civilization now saw them as the ultimate guarantee of peace. Admiral Scott Hayes later established the Human Defense Academy on Mars, where the next generation of officers would be trained. In his opening address to the first class of cadets, he shared the lessons learned from the Zephyrian War. Students, you are here to learn how to protect humanity and our allies, Admiral Hayes announced to the assembled young men and women. The Zephyrians taught us an important lesson about the price of complacency. We will never again be caught unprepared. Captain Jake Morrison, who had survived the first Zephyrian encounter, now commanded the Academy's Advanced Tactical Training Program. He often told his students about the 3 crew members who had been captured during that first contact. Carl Bennett, Lisa Parker, and Ryan Clark died in Zephyrian laboratories, Jake would tell each new class. They died because we were not prepared for an enemy that saw us as nothing more than test subjects. We honor their memory by ensuring that never happens again. The Zephyrian War became a turning point in galactic history. Trade routes that had once seen regular conflicts became peaceful highways. Territorial disputes that had simmered for decades were quietly resolved. No species wanted to risk becoming the next example of human defensive capabilities. In the deepest archives of human military intelligence, classified reports documented exactly how the total elimination had been accomplished. The methods, the technology, and the strategies were preserved for future generations, along with a simple warning: use only when the survival of humanity or galactic peace is at stake. Years later, when young humans asked their parents about the Zephyrians, they would be told a simple story. There had once been a species that thought humans were weak because they chose peace over war. That species had captured humans for experiments and threatened to destroy Earth. The ending was always the same. They learned that humanity's peaceful nature was a choice, not a weakness. And they learned it too late to save themselves. Throughout the galaxy, other species shared similar stories with their young. The message was always clear: never threaten humanity. Never mistake their kindness for weakness. Never force them to choose between peace and survival. The last species that had made those mistakes was gone forever, erased so completely that only stories remained to prove they had ever existed. And those stories served as the ultimate reminder of what happened to those who pushed humanity too far. The galaxy was more peaceful now. Everyone understood the rules. And everyone remembered what happened to those who broke them.